Welcome to this AI and Your Business event brought to you by NZBusiness magazine and our co-hosts, the Icehouse. Thanks so much for coming along. It's great to see so many people turned out. A few COVID casualties this morning, including one of our panelists, so you won't see Olivia here today. But we do have a special digital issue of the magazine coming out today that's got an exclusive interview with her in that issue. So if you came to see her, read the magazine and you might get some insights from that. I'm not going to say too much. I'm the editor of NZBusiness magazine, the managing editor of Pure 360. The titles were recently purchased from Adrenaline Publishing by Pure 360. And we're headed on a digital direction with the magazines. So not too much print anymore, but largely focused on digital, the website, digital editions, and events like this, which we hope to do a lot more of going forward around specific topics that affect SMEs in New Zealand. So obviously this first one will be specifically aimed at AI and the impact that it's having on SMEs in New Zealand. So our panels are going to chat to that today. Yeah, that's pretty much, I'm not going to say too much. We rather delve into it. So I'm going to welcome up Richard Conway, who's the CEO of Pure SEO, to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you. First I want to say thank you to everyone for coming. It's great to see so many people. Obviously topics interesting to people. I often come up at the front and speak as a CEO of an organisation, but ultimately that's in essence all I do. I mean, David has organised absolutely everything. I just kind of rock up and take some of the glory, which is a bit silly, but it is what it is. So we recently acquired Zealand Business magazine, management and Exporter today. And I've been involved with those magazines writing as an economist for many years and had a good association. And magazines are struggling at the moment. And so there's a struggling publication and there's very little in New Zealand that helps promote and show the positive side of business. And New Zealand Business magazine, which has been around since 1935, was pretty much it. And so I've kind of taken over as the custodian for the time being, and it's more just to keep it alive and to keep the stories going and to inspire the next sort of bunch of entrepreneurs. But really, I want to say thanks to the panelists because they've donated their time. David for organising it, and the Icehouse for sponsoring us. New CEO, so I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Richard and David. So thank you to New Zealand Business for giving us this opportunity to host this event here in our space. I am going to give a shameless plug for the space. We run here a co-working space and also an event space, and so it's wonderful to have so many of you here tonight, and you can talk to me later if you'd like to come back again another time. For those of you who don't know the Icehouse, we've been around since 2001. And we are measured by the impact we have on the economy through the efforts of small to medium-sized enterprises. We run leadership development programs, coaching and advisory, etc. for owner managers and leaders of SMEs. And you know, it's really tough right now being an owner of a business. And when we think about AI, it can feel like something else that an owner needs to do. But it can also be something that can help us get the most out of the resources that we do have without having to spend any more money. It can help us find new opportunities, etc. So I'm looking forward to the panel sharing some tips and tricks tonight and helping us demystify this. I just want to finish. I did put into ChatGPT before I'm speaking on to open a panel on AI tonight, and I don't know what to say. And I came up with something that felt really just not like me. So then I thought, okay, not quite there yet, because it refers to everyone as the esteemed guests, and I'd probably rather call you. No, I'm sure you are, but I'd probably rather call you my friends. So then I thought, okay, what's a joke that I can use at an AI event? And this is really bad, so I have to share it. Why don't AI attend parties? because they always seem to crash. It's quite brilliant.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks, Richard. So we're going to get into the panel discussion. Introductions first. I'll let the guys introduce themselves, but on the end we've got Peter. No, it's different. Peter Mangin. He's the chief AI person at Pure SEO. Then we've got Joanna O'Connor, who's the co-founder of Ethernet, and Justin Flitter, who's the founder of New Zealand AI. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. So we'll dive into it with you, Justin. Just introductions, who you are, where your AI journey started.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. My name's Justin Flitter. I founded New Zealand AI in 2017, before GPTs and Chat GPT and OpenAI and all that kind of thing. Today we spend all of our time helping people like us understand the practical ways that businesses can leverage artificial intelligence and supercharge their people. So whether that's productivity, thinking about efficiency, thinking about innovation, we find the ways for you to utilize artificial intelligence and help you on that journey. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Kia ora, my name's Joanna. I'm the marketing director for Auckland Theatre Company and by day, and by moonlighting, I'm starting a telco business called Ethernet, where you can earn 10% of your monthly bill back in crypto. And so being the co-founder of a startup business, but also working for a not-for-profit business, my journey with AI has very much been out of necessity, out of a lack of resources, out of a need to bootstrap my way through how to have big brand energy on a shoestring budget.
Okay, I'm Peter. I've been doing this for a while. In fact, I used to, 20 years ago, manage this office we're sitting in, which back then was Publicis Mojo. I've always been a technology guy. I've always worked with AI as part of that. And it's evolved over the years to where we are today, which is generative AI. But the focus is always being on adding value and making it accessible.
Thanks, guys. So I also put into ChatGPT a few questions that I could ask you guys. and the first one that came up was if you could describe AI and its transformative benefits in one word, what would it be?
It's remarkable.
It's access.
One word? Yeah, one word. Can it be hyphenated?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay, it's not one word. I'm rubbish at this. Look, it's the sum of basically our collective knowledge that's available to you. And if you know how to use it, it's incredibly powerful. And if you're using it the wrong way, it's incredibly useless.
So Olivia alluded to earlier, small business owners have a lot going on now, cost of living crisis, challenges around business operation, productivity. For business owners who are starting out on the AI journey or thinking of getting into an AI journey, why should this be something they should be adding to that list of to-dos in the current climate?
Good question. And I guess traveling around New Zealand, I've spent the last few weeks talking to teachers and master builders, and everyone's doing it tough. And I guess the response to the question for me is we can't keep throwing people at trying to solve problems. We have to look to technology to solve some of the problems that we've got. And we know that we're in difficult economic times, but we have to look at what comes next. And I think if we start thinking about the processes and the tasks that our people have to do, and if we can free them up with a little bit of artificial intelligence to be able to do some higher value work, to look after our customers better, to go out, to get off from the computer desk and go out and drum up some new business, then that's going to be better for everyone, right?
I'm going to speak more practically in terms of how I've used it and how I've seen it be useful within the organisations that I've worked for. And I think at Auckland Theatre Company, we're a marketing team of 5 people, and it's a very, working in a not-for-profit, we don't have the highest salary and remuneration that we can offer our young people. And so within the marketing space, it's often seen that you can train this resource up and then a bank comes along and wants to gobble them up at a senior or mid-management level job. And so by being able to introduce AI, which is accessible to organisations of any size, I'm able to offer my team and my workforce, because we are small, a more nimble, agile and flexible work environment where they can thrive in the innovation that they want to do rather than being stifled by red tape and bureaucracy. So for us it's been, and for me it's been immeasurably helpful to keep my staff engaged and enjoying the work and getting off doing mundane tasks and thinking more creatively about what they want to do, being more strategic.
I'd agree with that and build on it slightly, because that is pretty much what I was going to say, unfortunately. I don't like the analogy of a co-pilot, which is a phrase that's been coined mainly by Microsoft. I think for a small to medium business, you're actually better positioned to take advantage of it because the cost of entry is so low and the potential is so great. And I've seen it firsthand time and time again. And I don't like co-pilot. Think of it as a co-worker for $20 or $30 a month. The trick is knowing how to use it. And the best way to use it is by experimentation and playing, which sounds silly at first, but that's when you're going to realize the true value. Because as soon as you realize where it adds value, the cost to get that value is very, very low, and your productivity, your customer experience, your internal staff experience, and more importantly, your affordability and profitability will increase in what is a hard environment.
And just jumping in there, obviously you mentioned playing with the technology. As small businesses, how do you know, or how do you get from that level of playing with or tinkering with the technology to actually implementing it across your organization? How do you go from that level to the next level?
I'll give it a crack. Oh, I'm mic'd up already, look at that. I'm wireless.
My answer was kind of a little bit before we got to that point, but anyway, yeah.
Okay, look, I've done this a lot, and what I've found is 3 basic guiding principles, which is don't be overly onerous about policy, but definitely put something in place so your staff definitely have a box to play within. It's like well-behaved children, right? They know the rules. And you have to do that from a legal point of view. Secondly, don't partition it to marketers. Definitely not IT people, trust me. I am an IT person, right? Don't do that. Everyone. Because at Pure especially, we did that. And some of the feedback and some of the ideas came from the most unexpected areas from people where I'm supposed to be the expert, and I'm looking at it going, damn, that is really smart. Because they can see the practical application. If you set them tasks and tell them to learn a thing, that's not fun. If you say, here's some stuff, make sure you don't go outside of this box, go and play with it, tell us what you find useful, the ideas come from everywhere and very, very quickly.
AI just wants a job to do, right? Just wants a task. Give it a role. Whether it's the assistant to summarize your meetings, whether it's the strategist to help you plan your go-to-market strategy, to analyze your board papers, whether it's the creator and thinking about how we build brand content that's in your tone of voice. We want businesses to think, and we want people to think, every time you start a new task, how can I use AI tools to help me do this faster, more effectively? How can it help me reframe or challenge me to think about solving this problem in a different way? And there is an element of experimentation with this. And you said not co-pilot, but I really like to think of the way that I use Perplexity or ChatGPT as like my consultant, my advisor, my coach that's helping me think about solving problems in a different way.
It's interesting when I asked my team how they described ChatGPT before I came here, they said it's like an intern because you never actually get from it something that, like if I paid a consultant $500 an hour, I don't want to get something which I then have to spend 3 hours, fixing. And so I would say, yes, AI can bring efficiencies to your time, but more often than not, for me, I haven't seen it actually make things more time efficient. What I have seen is it's brought more cost efficiencies or more ownership, or it's like rather than staring at a blank page, you're now looking at something. So when my team described it as an intern, I think that kind of applied quite well for us.
So this is the answer to your question, right? ChatGPT is the world's greatest consultant that knows nothing about you or your business. You've got to train these large language models to give them the context to be able to articulate and drive instruction to do things for your business, right? So that next level, how do we take them to that next level? We've got to fine tune, we've got to train these AI tools based on your domain knowledge, your expertise, your company information to be able to get that next level of insight out of it.
How do we do that?
Oh, hold on. I think there's an important step, and it's familiar to all of us, but probably not everyone in the room. Don't look to try and fit AI in with your organization and look for the use cases. Always come back to the golden rule. What is the problem you're trying to solve? That is often actually the hardest question to answer. And then the rest that we're talking about, like training models and things, is actually incredibly easy. A lot of businesses are approaching AI with, how can we use it? What can it do? That's the wrong approach. That is fundamentally where most people go wrong. What is the problem we're trying to solve? That's really important.
A lot of companies are just deploying Microsoft Copilot to everybody, and there's no training or support or understanding of those use cases. And all too often, then people feel disenfranchised, like, it's not working, it's not doing anything for me, right? So it is really, really important to be able to provide that support, to bring people on that journey with you. And often when we've been in and working with clients, and you'll know this when you're working with your teams as well, is it's people working on the front line or in the back office operations. It's those people that have the most valuable use cases, the tedious, repetitive work that if we can just automate that and free up their time, we can actually move business faster, right? And so it's interviewing them and talking to those people that bring out the best use cases that we've been developing.
And you talk about training your AI to fit in with your organization. At the rate that AI is evolving, how do we as business owners, business managers, keep up with that evolution? How do we've got so much else going on.
I spent 20 hours a week researching and studying this, and I can't keep up.
So what do we do? If we're looking to implement this technology within our organization that's constantly evolving, what do we do to keep up with that?
I'm wireless, remember? I got the cool one. You teach people to think critically. It isn't about the technology. The technology is going to change. Facebook updates its interface all the time. Right? And it's like, where's that button gone? The world loses its mind. It's similar in the AI. It'll behave differently. But if you understand the foundational principles, which aren't significant, and the core one is critical thinking through what you're trying to achieve and having a basic concept of the foundational skills and how to use it, then it doesn't matter if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever, it becomes transportable. So you're still leveraging the tool, but the real investment you've made is in your staff, and your staff respect and value you for it, and they're happier. So it's kind of a win-win. You're more flexible and your staff love it. Why not?
Anything to add?
The way that we work and how we do it is always evolving. AI is accelerating that pace of change. And for some people, that can be quite confronting, right? That's quite challenging. We've got to, I think, as employers and business leaders, we've got to promote this sustainable career development, and we've got to bring people along this AI journey with us and building up. We've seen with research that's come out from AWS and other papers this year that, employees want career development. They want to be learning. They want to be advancing. They want to be delivering more value. They want to get more job satisfaction and feel like they're contributing to the companies that they're working for. And so I think AI is just playing into that game where we want to be giving people the skills that they need. And for that, it's actually, we've got to break through that we've always done it this way. And if we can get through, we've always done it this way. Why have we always done it that way? Because we haven't had another way. We've got another way. Every time we've got a task, we have to think to ourselves, how can we use AI tools to change, to shapeshift, to change the way that we do this work? And it is going to slow us down for a little bit as we work through that learning and development. But over time, that productivity gain is just remarkable.
Joanna, anything to add?
I did have something, but I forgot.
That's what we call an hallucination.
Maybe I'll come to you next, Joanna. Speaking specifically about marketing, obviously your experience within the marketing industry, maybe you could share how you use the technology within Auckland Theatre Company and your new startup that you've got going on, just to give people a sense of how practically it can be implemented within organizations, especially around marketing.
So with ChatGPT, one of the key things that, and it goes back to what Justin was saying before about training it. So I've got threads, and rather than each time I'm asking it to do something and it's starting again, I go back to a thread that I've already been using. So I find that really useful. All that previous knowledge and input has still been in there. I also, in that thread, when I take copy out of it and I do that final 20% on it, I put that copy back into the thread and go, this is what I ended up going with. So that the next time I go to that thread, it keeps that knowledge, because I was saying this before to some people that when I was eating food, that if you only take from it and you never actually tell it what you went with, then it's never going to actually get you closer to 100%, and you're always going to be stuck with the intern. So that's one thing. So we're using that to help us craft customer communications. Working in the performing arts, we experience cancellations, we've experienced all sorts of things. We're having to, unfortunately, reshuffle some shows because we don't have enough people coming to see them, and so these are pretty tough communications to write, when people have an emotional connection with wanting to come and see a particular show on a Friday at 8 p.m. and they cannot come and see it at any other time. So it becomes really helpful to help craft those kind of communications. For Ethernet, being just two co-founders at the moment, it isn't really about how we train staff to be really adaptive and adoptive of this technology. It does go back to what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And so one of the things that we do is go to Copilot and go, we would like to create a video how-to or explainer on what our startup is. How can we use that? And so we've found it really helpful at telling us at the current time what is the best AI tools to do the thing that we want to do. So some of them have been DID, has been really helpful for us at creating explainer videos with an avatar. You can upload a picture. It analyzes the face, and so you can have a talking person speaking to your knowledge base of all your help desk information and things like that. Another one was 11 Labs, which creates voice Yeah, voice memos. And we use that for when we wanted to create some pre-recorded voice messages. So press 2 if you'd like information on tonight's show. The difficult thing with these things, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, is they're not great with te reo or pronunciation of the New Zealand accent and things like that. So if te reo and inclusive diverse language is part of your brand's tone of voice, then these tools are still frustrating in that respect. And then the other thing, which is the main thing for us, is Midjourney. Midjourney has been an absolutely incredible generative AI imaging tool for us to be able to create not only storyboarding for our photo shoots for when we're doing these big campaigns with artists, so that the photographer, the retoucher, the talent, the producer, the director, everybody in the room understands the image that we're trying to create, not to replace that talent, but to make it really efficient for them, so that rather than a mood board of a whole lot of different, we want to have neon lighting like this Pinterest image, and we want to have a table over here like this IKEA table, rather than that kind of whole spread of imagery, and the director and the talent and the retoucher all has a different idea. It's one image, and we've created beautiful campaign imagery, and it just really streamlined the discussion. No one was upset because everybody knew what they were going to get. And then for Ethernet, we use generative AI to create the imagery of our mascot. And so rather than having one mascot, we have an idea of what that mascot is going to be. And like us, like our fans, like our customers, we want them to become engaged with the brand, and so they can then go and create their own mascot and their own setting and things like that as well. So there's quite a few different tools, and all of them we learnt because we went to an AI and we just asked, what's the tool that can get me to do this?
We've got clients using 11 Labs to create a brand voice that they're using to create their radio ads with now.
And when it comes, while we're on the topic of content and imagery, a lot of small businesses and small business owners are using AI to generate content, imagery for websites, etc. Do you have any advice, cautions for them on how best to utilize that technology, do's and don'ts kind of thing, to get the best results out of it? Because it is challenging. We use it for our publication to generate some imagery, and it is challenging, especially when you mentioned like New Zealandisms, trying to get that into imagery. How do people navigate that?
So I think Peter's probably going to have some good experiences if you've been following Peter's LinkedIn trajectory over the last few days. You'll understand why. But experiment, right? It's not a one-shot process here. With Midjourney, there are some more technical prompts that you can add in to generate different styles. So if you think about being a photographer, you've got the camera type, the lens, the ISO, the exposure, all of these different attributes which will go into describing the type of image that you're trying to create. And so there is a lot of experimentation which goes in re-rolling those particular images. But where their Midjourney now has been used by a lot of agencies to create brand imaging and product collateral now, where those shots would be otherwise very difficult or expensive to create. It's not an end-to-end process though. It's not like you can upload your skincare product into Midjourney and have it automatically in this. It's generative. It's going to regenerate that product shot. So you can imagine what the background is or what the setting for that product is, but you're still going to need Photoshop or post-production editing to finish off that work. So it's a part of the process that we're doing.
I have some warnings. So at Auckland Theatre Company, we do a lot of diverse works, and so I was very conscious when I started using Midjourney, which was about 1.5 years ago, so it has evolved to a much safer platform. But I would be very concerned about just who of my staff is going to be exposed to some of the images that comes out. So In terms of ethnic stereotyping, if you ask it for Pacifica dancing, it's going to be very...
African American?
Yes, but not just that, like very stereotypical. Like even if you ask for it for Māori doing mahaka, it can be very, very stereotype in terms of what its perception of generating that is. And so if I have, which I do, Pacifica staff on my team, I don't want them thinking that this is how the rest of the world sees their culture. So there's kind of a diversity protection measure there as well. Also just being conscious of subconscious bias as well. A lot of the data that these generative AI tools are coming from are from sources which have subconscious bias in them. And so I was prompting it to present to me a brother and sister, and every single image that was coming back was always the brother, the male, sitting in front of the female. Now, as a female, I noticed that, but you know, it would be very easy for that content to just slip right through, and suddenly every time your brand posts images on social media, the male is always in front. So there's a little bit of that. Body dysmorphism is massive, but it's obviously everybody can see that, so you wouldn't put someone on your social media who had 6 fingers.
We're seeing less and less of that, though.
Yeah, there is a lot less of it now, but yeah, I would just, in terms of using generative AI to produce content, there's that. There's also the legal concept behind it as well. Like there's no copyright in any imagery that is or content that's created by a generative AI tool. So if it's very important to you that your imagery or your billboards or your assets are ownable and you have copyright control over them, or you are creating a logo and you want that logo to be trademarked, be careful, because in America, and I'm sure it's here as well, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sure if there's a lawyer in the room, they can probably clarify, but I do not think that your logo would be able to be trademarked if it was created by a generative AI tool. So there's legal implications, particularly for brands as well. So those are probably the key warnings that I have experienced.
Yeah. And it isn't just partitioned or isolated to image generation. Bias is present in all of these models. And I don't think you can mitigate it, because we all have bias. I have bias. Every single one of you does. But in these models, it is to an nth degree, unfortunately, because of the way they're trained, which we won't go into. But the point is, you should be aware of it. Also, one I'd just throw into the bonfire there is some of these tools that, you know, especially when they're in early beta or early release, make sure you have the commercial right to even use it. Because if you're not paying for Midjourney, if you're using the free version, you don't have a commercial right. So you've got a problem there. I just want to swing right back on the use cases, because it occurred to me, they're all fantastic, but there's also another bag of use cases, and we use it for a lot of things at Pure SEO. But we use it for a lot of task-orientated stuff. Like for anyone in the SEO space, going through like a spreadsheet of 1,500 blog articles to write meta titles so that you can optimize them for SEO, yeah, that takes a long time, and now it's a button press. Or frequently asked questions, everyone's got them on their website, right? We have to create them for clients, and sometimes they're highly technical things. And so a writer's going in there, reading the website, looking, okay, trying to get the header, and then writing them, it takes ages. Now it's a button press. Does that diminish the value of what we're doing? No. But the writer's then going in and massaging the words, massaging the titles. So what we've got is tremendous efficiency and stopping the writers from just going bonkers. And that's a practical output. And we've got numerous tools to do numerous different things, but those are just some very task-orientated things. And I think task orientation, rather than thinking about, you know, all of these, you know, great things that you can do, which may or may not fit with your business, are worth getting to, but start with the really basic stuff, the stuff that you're doing over and over again that's laborious, where it is pretty straightforward, because AI at the end of the day, when it comes to words anyway with large language models, is good at one thing in particular, which is summarization. So I remember one of yours, when you get sent plays and they're 2,000 pages, and you have to read the damn thing to work out what's it about, how are we going to position this in the market, and that takes a long time. So you slam it into a large language model and go, what's it about? Who's the main protagonist, right? And then you craft your message on that. Does it devalue what she's doing? No, because she's spending less thunk time reading the play, which is amazing if there are any playwrights in the room. But at the same time, then spending the mental time on developing and crafting the marketing message to make sure it's a success. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Sometimes I can ramble.
I might just add something, because you've sparked an idea, which is also sales. So as part of what I'm doing is I am churning through sales data to identify trends and learn how we can optimize and make sure we have the right amount of resource on the phones at the right time. And so with GPT-4 being able to upload a spreadsheet of 2 years worth of sales data, I know that actually over Easter weekend we have very few calls. However, over King's birthday weekend, it's very high. Matariki, we don't need to do a performance because typically it's been some of the lowest selling sales days for us. And so by using the advanced analytics within GPT, I'm able to say that 33% of our sales are coming from within the season. And so I get a whole lot of really valuable insights, which I was previously using Excel spreadsheets like Rain Man, trying to figure out all of these things to produce board reports. And now it's so much easier with GPT-4, and I just upload that sales data and I can start asking it questions about the data for me.
And touching on that, coming back to like privacy and customer data that you're using in these AI technologies, is there anything that businesses should be aware of in that space? What are some of the red flags that they should be looking out for?
I think some of the most important advice that we share, there's kind of two things. Free versions of ChatGPT, that's the most risky. We want you to be utilising these tools within your walled garden, within your tenancy. Deploy Microsoft Copilot within your 365 environment. Get a ChatGPT for business account. Utilize these tools in a way, but if you're paying for the enterprise versions, there are options there so that your data is not being used to train the algorithm. Certainly with Microsoft Copilot, it's operating within your 365 environment. You've got the same security protocols as you would anytime anyone wants to use any of the 365 products. And it's a relatively safe place for people to play and experiment with the data that you've got within your environment. If there's people that are using free tools, whether it's Google Gemini and AI-studio.google or Perplexity or ChatGPT, there are a whole lot of tasks that you can do that people have done a million times. You want to outline for a go-to-market strategy. You want to create a program for an event. You want to do all of this kind of generic stuff that you just want to short shift. Fill your boots, go for gold, not a problem. As soon as you want to be starting to work with your domain knowledge, your customer data, your data, then absolutely we want to be thinking about the tools that we're using and where that information is being used and stored. So,
I'm almost kind of thinking that it might be like a new Wikipedia space. So I'm thinking that if I can, with my startup, be training the program, then maybe when people are looking for a telco that offers them a crypto reward, then the robot's going to tell them to come to Ethernet. But other than that, like I wouldn't upload customer data into one of these systems yet. unless it was within a tenanted environment. And my sales data is all very anonymous. I mean, yeah, it's like with Google Analytics. Google Analytics, it's actually a breach of its terms and conditions for it to be able to crawl your website and get personally identifiable information. So I sort of treat the AIs as kind of the new SEO.
I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually pretty relaxed about it, if I'm to be perfectly honest. But the key is make sure you know what platforms you're using and what they do with your data. Wearing my practitioner's hat for that data to be reproduced by the model, even if it's trained on it, is almost impossible. Okay, the New York Times would have you believe otherwise, but I don't believe them. That's another story. But if you're dealing with PII or something that's that commercially sensitive, the simple stress test is, if you're not sure, would you put it on Twitter? Would you put it on Facebook? If the answer is no, don't do it. It's common sense. It really is common sense. Are they robbing you of your data or whatever? I don't know, but you all use Facebook every day. Less concerned.
This may be a bit of a futurist kind of question, but we've got all these tech giants, well, a handful of tech giants. You've got your Googles, etc. We've got ChatGPT and a handful of open source AI. Are we going to see 3, 4, 5 players dominate the market for the next X amount of years? Or are we going to see a whole bunch of new players come to the market as the technology evolves?
Yes, I think you're going to see probably a few big companies dominate this market for a period of time. That doesn't leave out the opportunity for new players to enter the market with new language models, new technology. I think generative AI plays into the hands of innovators, of entrepreneurs to reimagine software and business process and technology. Sam Altman came out a couple of months ago and said, we're not far away from potentially seeing the first, 10-person billion-dollar company, right? And I believe that. I think that this idea of looking at big tech SaaS companies with tens of thousands of employees, I think that's legacy. And we've now got technology that can write code, that can provide customer service, that can generate this content. It's the stitching together of all of these data sources and workflows that's really going to be the game changer. And perhaps we're not quite there yet, but we're getting pretty close.
I don't really know about the future. That's not my expertise. But I would just say that the one thing, and we were talking about this before, the one thing that we really want is these tools to be able to be interconnected. So at the moment, I'm using about 7 different AI tools to produce a video. And I think those big tech giants, the way that they're going to have that dominance is from that interconnectivity that they'll provide.
I have a pretty strong view on this one, ironically. I think at the big end of town with these massive consolidated models like your ChatGPTs and Anthropic, Claudes and likes, they're going to be petitioned to 3 or 4 big commercial players. But then look at what Facebook's done by open sourcing its models. That's genius. So it actually belongs to the world, and the world's helping them make it better, so it's going to play catch up. On the back of that, all of these open source people are going a different route, and the route that I see in the future, creating very niche specialist models that can maybe run on your phone to do very specific things. And I don't think, and I still maintain, and even when I think about it today in my own practice, I won't rely on just one. I use them in combination. Yeah, it's a pain to change your tools sometimes. But on your phone, you don't have one app, you have 5, because they all do different things, right? And I think all of the visual having to go from tool to tool to tool, the smart money's on, that will go into the background, and the smart person will come up with a way to just be an easy interface to all of that. And a lot of those models all of a sudden will be heavily democratized.
I think Datch is a really good example. Does anyone know Datch in Auckland? So they've built a platform where workers can use language models to report incidents, so health and safety reports. They can manage tasks and all sorts of things like that. And they have a multi-model approach. So there are different tasks that they might run ChatGPT-4 or for GPT-4 against versus another large language model. There are different, and so they utilize these different large language models within the same application to produce the right outcome. And so I think it's incredibly complicated to think about these things, but every one of these different models, whether it's open source or closed, they all work in slightly different ways. And even as an individual, playing around with them, or as a company thinking about, which one should we be using, you've got to experiment and you've got to use probably all of them, or certainly a combination of different tools to be able to do different tasks, because they all respond differently to particular tasks, right?
I think from a business perspective, this is not really that important, is it? I think what's important is everything that you use today is going to be the worst it ever will be. It's only going to get better. And it's like a sigmoid curve, right? Everyone's seen that. Marketing 101, right? You get early adopters, and then it gets mass traction, and then, the number of people using it and what it can do goes through the roof, and then it peaks off. Like the recent editions of the iPhone after all of that time, there's nothing really new. It's been through that. But where we are on that when it comes to AI, and remember, AI has been around for like 40 years. We're talking about generative AI.
Since the 50s.
Yeah. So where we are on that, I don't know. I reckon we're still down here. So all you can be promised is everything you're using today is going to be the most rubbish it ever will be. It's only going to get better.
But that doesn't mean you don't start today.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be concerned.
Wait till tomorrow when it's going to be better. Just get started.
I wouldn't be concerned about who owns it, but I'd be concerned about the ethics and their morals and how they develop it. That is what the real concern should be, not who owns it.
And if I'm looking to start implementing it today, how long is this? So you mentioned we're down here on the graph. I've seen some graphs, so we might be close to the peak. How much longer is this period of disruption going to last?
Like, if you think about a hockey stick growth curve, we're like at the the first inflection point of growth. Like, we are miles away from where this is going.
I just feel strongly about this, and a lot of companies are in this state of paralysis. Oh, we don't have a policy though, or but it's going to cost $20 per month, but your employees are going to save like 40 hours a month. What's wrong with you? Start by starting. Done is better than perfect. Okay. I'm also going to add to that and saying good is the enemy of great. Just get on with it. And if you need help, call for it. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Don't try and solve all your world's problems. That's why people like me exist. In half an hour, I can allay those risks. Where are the people from Anthem? Hello. I did that in an hour, right? And it's changed how your own staff are looking at stuff, and they're getting actual benefit out of it because you just got on with doing it. Though to be fair, you had a great policy in place. Okay, just take that to heart. If anything else, just get on with it. Don't overthink it.
Cool. As we start to wrap up, are there local examples of businesses who have implemented AI within the organizations that you can speak to?
How much time have you got?
One example each.
If you're a business in New Zealand and you're not using AI, you're in the minority.
Yeah. So is there a great case study that you can talk to specifically that might be relatable to people in the audience?
Yeah, I can talk to many. Okay, that one. Not an AI person, not a technical person, a marketer needing to solve a problem.
What Jane's done with Auckland Theatre Company, I mean, you presented the AI show event, you've showcased it around, like, it's actually a very, very good use case and very, very practical way of how you've used generative AI to short shift the work that you're doing. Like, it's classic.
Thank you. But the one thing that I would say is that there is information that goes into teaching these generative AI models. And so something that I've added at the bottom of the ethernet.co.nz website is actually, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before with copyright, is where there's usually that, C brand, then what we've added to that is Ethernet uses generative AI content on this website. We acknowledge the original human content creators that taught the AI models we use. And so very similar in Australia, where they have an acknowledgement to country. I think that it's really important for us to also, as we use more of these AI tools to create content, that we do acknowledge the original sources of where that information or that imagery has come from.
Yeah, I'd double down on that. Transparency is critical. Like anyone who follows me on LinkedIn, I'm not the best writer in the world. And it always, whenever I've used it, I say at the bottom, written by me, checked with this model, this is why I did it. So no one can ever call me out. Same with the images, because I'm not going to pay for a stock image for something to go on LinkedIn, right? I say image by Peter Mangin and Midjourney, or whatever I've used. That's transparency. But my point, by kind of mainly pointing at you, not a technical person, because the other really great example is Pure SEO. We're leaps and bounds, we're world class, seriously. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet. This is externally assessed by people overseas in the US. Yes, they had me, which is why I didn't jump to us as a use case, because I'm a specialist in the field. But this is someone that had a problem to solve and just did the hard yards. That's all you need to do.
And just looking forward, obviously going away from this event, and opportunity for you guys to plug what you guys have got going on. I know that you do various workshops and things like that, but how can people continue this journey and continue this discussion through various workshops that you guys have got going on?
Okay, well, number one is open up ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, Perplexity, whichever one you want to play around with, and start doing some stuff. Ask it some questions. Have a conversation with these tools. Start experimenting. That's the best thing that all of you can start doing with this, is thinking about how can I use these tools to short shift the work that we're doing. And if you want some help, New Zealand.ai is where a lot of New Zealand companies start their AI journey. We're running the Great New Zealand AI Roadshow, actually, during August and September. We'll be doing 10 events around Aotearoa aimed at helping business leaders from businesses of all shapes and sizes figure out why, where, and how to be utilising AI, with some really super practical workshops and demos and presentations. So come along to that.
Okay. Similar vein, with some rules in place, but make sure it's all your staff. Get comfortable with the technology, but never get too far down at thinking how you can shoehorn it. Always come back to what is the problem we're trying to solve. Okay. Every organisation in here, every person at a personal level, whoever you are, there's what you do and there's why you do it. AI is neither of those things unless you're one of maybe 3 or 4 companies in the entire planet, okay? How you do it, that's where AI sits. Don't lose sight of that. That would be my advice.
Well, thank you. We'll open to the floor for some questions. If you've got any questions, just raise your hand and I'll come around with the mic.
Hey, ChatGPT.